What's up, guys? It's Jason over Think Gaming. Today I want to talk about the Intellivision Amico. We're going to first start off the video by talking about Tommy Tallarico. Now, I got to say, Tommy is one of the most respected dudes in the gaming industry right now. As far as YouTubers, I can't think of one YouTuber that doesn't like him. I mean, he's a legend. He composes music. He has, a record of just so many songs, and he has a history of being in the gaming industry forever. This dude has recorded so many tunes in video games. I mean, he's a composer, genius, whatever you want to say about him. And lately, you know, he's been pretty on it with the YouTubers. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I don't know if it was like 3 years ago, whatever, he became the CEO of Intellivision. Now, Intellivision was before my time. I never got into the Intellivision. My first experiences with gaming was with the Atari, but I was so little. My first system myself, that was my brother's, was a NES, and that's where I remember gaming, from the NES above. So anything from the Intellivision, you know, back then, Commodore 64, I don't remember any of that. So that's just not my thing into gaming. But the Intellivision Amico is something new. Basically what the system is doing is going after the casual audience, you know, kind of what the Wii did. The Wii went into, like, you know, older folks and stuff like this. It became a really successful system. Now, my opinion, the reason why it was successful is because it had Nintendo's name attached to it. Now, everybody was playing the Wii Sports and going all crazy with it, and, you know, the families got involved, and that's kind of what Tommy Tallarico is saying. He wants to get the families back into the living room and get, you know, just the casual gamer into it. Now they did have a founders edition that came out. You put $100 down. Now, Madlow Pixels went ahead and pre-ordered it, and he just canceled it. He made a video on it canceling. I think he could have been a little more rough. He just took the safe way out, which, you know, he's not a critical YouTuber. I mean, he has been critical on some of the products, maybe the games. I think I really can't pinpoint when he's been too critical, but he kind of gave his reason why, and he just kind of was laid back about it. He still had nothing bad to say about, you know, the Amico or anything like that towards the company. So he left it very safe. But so here's my criticism on the Amico. It's definitely not a system for me. It's a system I don't care about. First of all, I think it's overly priced. It is overpriced for the games you get. You'll get the same satisfaction of playing those games on a cell phone. There's some cell phone games on there. I understand it's a whole different remote. So Tommy Tallarico's been going on podcasts for a while now. One of the first podcasts I did see with him was with Level 857. I actually went on that podcast. Really good group of guys, man. I really like those guys. But the podcast that people are talking about right now is the one he did with Rich with Review Tech USA. Now, the podcast was only an hour long. It was kind of boring. I mean, not with Tommy. The way Rich kind of ran it, I didn't like it. So I didn't catch most of it, but I have seen other, you know, podcasts and other interviews with Tommy Tallarico. This one got a lot of track because Ian and Pat, the NES punk, went ahead and criticized it. Now, a lot of channels only covered Ian's introduction to talking about Rich. They made it portray like if it was a Rich versus Pat thing, and it really wasn't. You know, and I took it that way. I almost made a video actually kind of dogging on Pat, and I'm glad I didn't, because if you guys don't know, one of my first videos was actually dogging on Pat, which, of course, I have that one unlisted, but look, check it out. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jason with Overthink Gaming, and I wanted to make a quick video today just talking about Pat, the NES punk. So I'm no stranger into talking shit about Pat. That's kind of what I wanted to do, but then I gave a listen. Actually giving it a listen, I kind of agree with their criticisms. First of all, is the games, like the Evil Knievel game. They used like the cell phone game YouTube video. Basically, it's a one-for-one copy, but I saw like cell phone games, and then I actually went to the Amico, you know, website, and I saw the type of games they had. It was nothing that got my eye. I know there's supposed to be an Earthworm Jim game that's probably going to be nothing but mini games, supposedly. Just looking at the games, it seemed like something that I had no interest in playing, just anything I could pick up on my cell phone. There really was no reason to buy the system. Now, Amico is supposed to have their own exclusives and devs working on the game, but I don't see any exclusives that are worth buying a whole system, especially priced at $229 to $250. $50 more, you could get a Switch. If you really want a family-friendly event, it will go online, but the Switch to me is right now the family console, the only family console we kind of have, and I can't imagine somebody wanting to fork almost $300 into a system that's just going to be very basic. One of the things criticized was the controller. Now, it was no new technology. Basically the capacitive touch on a cell phone. You can touch your finger and drag. Now, Tommy was on video demonstrating this. That you know, it is a touch screen that you can kind of move around, but it's nothing new. You know, it's nothing like a D-pad. A D-pad does have the 8 directions, and a D-pad is something like Nintendo made back then, and I don't think it should ever be changed. But understand this is for the casual gamer, so Tommy was kind of trying to say that this D-pad had 64 directions, and that's when Ian and Pat kind of tore into him. Like, what game actually needs 64 directions? And, you know, most games, you know, even twin stick shooters will use 8 directions. And if you wanted to use 64 directions, an analog stick would have been fine. Now, I agree with this criticism because I have played cell phone games. I'm not a fan of cell phone games, but I did get Grand Theft Auto, you know, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, one of my favorite Grand Theft Autos on the cell phone. Now, I couldn't play with it. I really hated the feeling of a touchscreen. Any cell phone game that uses an analog stick to go different directions on a touchscreen, I freaking hate it. Now, I'm not saying the Amico is going to feel the same. I don't know if there's some kind of a, you know, haptic feedback or something that lets you know which directions you are, but I highly doubt that there's any technology like that into the system. Another thing they criticized with the controller was a little disc pad that you can kind of move around. Now, this whole controller, because it has a screen and a little disc pad, it reminds me of an old MP3 player. In fact, I had a Sansa MP3 player back in the day that had that little disc that you moved around to go through songs. It worked very well for the MP3 players during the early 2000s. And all this, seeing this controller really made me want to go back, which I did check the prices. They're pretty decent to buy that MP3 player. Just, you know, just for my old memories, because I'm getting old. Now, the controller, you can move it in different ways. You know, you can actually make the screen a button, and you can move directions with the pad. There's also little shoulder buttons. And the way Tommy demonstrated in a lot of the podcasts, it could be moved around in different ways. Now, seeing Tommy demonstrate this controller, nothing got me excited on how it works. It does have some kind of motion control that is showed in a dice game. It just seemed like nothing that I was interested in, nothing that's going to be worth the price point. Now, there was no talk about USB controllers or anything being compatible, which I think is very important. I can't see any third parties actually making this controller. We don't know the price point. We don't know how much this is, but the cool thing is it does come with 2 controllers. Now, the one thing I noticed is that Tommy will talk to any YouTuber, no matter how big you are, no matter how small he is. Now, he talked to Rich from Review Tech, which is huge. He wanted Pat and Ian to go on the podcast, and he actually talked to Canadian Gamer. Now, that's what made me laugh. This guy actually did a podcast with a guy who used his phone and put it next to a Rock Band mic. That was hilarious.
Will the Amico be available at any major retail outlets in North America?
We absolutely have retail orders in the biggest retail stores in the world.
Another thing I noticed is Tommy does use YouTube, and he does search his name and the Amico and does find criticism on it, and will contact the person to see if they want to find more information. Now, there's nothing wrong with Tommy doing this. To me, it's basic PR stuff. Any criticism, you're going to talk to a person and probably try to open their eyes and make them see it a different way. Now, personally, I see nothing wrong with Ian and Pat actually not wanting to go on a podcast with Tommy. It seems like every podcast I've seen with Tommy that's mentioned that, he kind of dogs on Ian and Pat not doing a podcast, not actually listening to him, giving them a chance. To me, this is very similar when a YouTuber will say, you could have got to me in the DMs instead of having your own opinions. You put out your video with their own opinions, and then Tommy will go into like a video wanting to talk to you, because a lot of YouTubers, and not like myself, not like Pat, not like Ian, will kind of like change their mind the way they think. This is nothing against Tommy. I did see Level 1 Online's podcast of him, and it was the best podcast out of all of them I saw. I could tell by the way that Tommy just vibed. He seemed like a really cool dude. They were just having fun on that podcast, and I see nothing wrong if anyone likes the system. Personally, it's a system not for me, so I hope you guys understand why I made this video. It's just my personal criticism of what's going around YouTube, and also my criticism on the system. I honestly think the console, like I said, is overpriced, and it doesn't have any games that will get the interest of most gamers. The only people I see talking about it are other YouTubers, and it hasn't hit the casual audience yet. This system is supposed to release on October 10th, 2020, which is too close to the next generation console release dates. So with the price point being high, I think most people are going to want to go against the next generation console. But then again, Tommy is not going after gamers, he says. He's going after the casual audience. To me, the casual audience will get more satisfaction out of a cell phone game and will not see a reason why he's spending almost $300 on a system. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is just my 2 cents on the drama with Pat the NES Punk, Ian, Review Tech, Tommy, you know, Amico, all the YouTubers out there. This is just what I think about everything that's happening on the platform. If you guys enjoyed this video, please drop a like. If you guys are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I'll be catching you guys on the next one. Peace out.